if you watch that Cornell match, like guys are just going out there excited to compete. As a coach, that's always what you're looking for. And sometimes you'd rather coach, that kid who's not winning as much, but going out there and giving it all versus the kid who wins more, but he's like stealing it or leaving the match gassed. But what's the difference right now is we have a team of hungry wrestlers.
Welcome to Iron Summit, where we cover topics about health, fitness, and general performance through the eyes of former elite Division I wrestlers. All right,
We're live.
What's up? Today we have an awesome guest, my good friend, former training partner, coach of mine, national champion for Lehigh at the most important weight class, heavyweight.
Sure.
This is Zach Rey, now an assistant coach at Lehigh University. Glad to have you on.
Thanks for having me, guys.
Heck yeah. Zach, I got the best question to start here. Who is the most jacked former Lehigh heavyweight? And just no punches held back. Like, let's hear it.
It's a very easy answer, unfortunately. So Max was shredded, jacked and big and everything. There's been a lot of really strong heavyweights when it comes to jacked heavyweights. The word you chose is unfortunate because Max is the only answer. But if you look at the last 10, years or 15 years of Lehigh heavyweight wrestling, there's been people stronger while in college or way bigger for sure. Because there's some really big dudes over here. Like Nathan Taylor, he might be the biggest while being the most athletic at the same time. And then Jordan Wood, he was all of, 280. Me, I was all of 280. Doug Valero, there's some big dudes. Max was like 240, 245. So we've done a good job at having some big, strong wrestlers at heavyweight, but Max was the jackest, unfortunately.
I appreciate that answer. I think the most important thing, though, is that Lehigh is really kind of like, in my mind, there's probably a couple other you can throw in there, but that's been like heavyweight U for the last 10, 15 years.
We've been very consistent having success at the heavyweight weight class and the 97 weight class. Obviously, Minnesota, Missouri, and Penn State, they've done a great job. All of them are up there with some elite, history of heavyweight success. But yeah, I'd like to consider us one of the best schools for heavyweights for sure.
Totally. I'm about it. I'm not going to argue with that.
You guys do an awesome job, Zach. Obviously, you're an awesome training partner, but the depth that you guys get at heavyweight every year it's kind of crazy because college wrestling, I feel like you're constantly looking for 125 pounder, you're looking for a heavyweight, and you guys seem to just always have crazy depth there. One thing in college is like, how did you train in order to stay big and athletic? Because I think heavyweight's a unique position where you got to put on mass. It's kind of like maybe like a football where you got to be big. If you're 270 plus and you can move, it's a huge advantage. But also putting on mass is sometimes slows guys down and puts you at, I don't know. It's tough because it's a cardio sport too. It's not just like who can push the guy around the most. So how did you think about that in your personal training? How do you think about that when you're coaching all these elite heavyweights?
Just like what you said, Ryan, there's a balance. You don't want to get too big to where all of a sudden you can't do, the techniques or offenses that brought you your success. So, I came into college around 245 and not that I didn't do any type of offensive attacks, but I was a more defensive wrestler. And so I felt as if the bigger and stronger that I was, the more success that I would have. So I would eat and lift as my main priorities in my mind for success. And I definitely could have developed my offensive skills more, but I really did focus on eating and lifting. To one point, I think I was 295 one summer going into my senior year. Because my success was, defense. And then if it ever got to ride outs, like I was going to lift you twice and that was all she wrote. So, but then when it comes to like Max was a 97 pounder first couple of years. And then he dedicated his life to, the right way of bulking, clean bulking where you're putting the right stuff in your body and setting an alarm. So you're putting, a cakes and protein shake. So he still was able to keep that jacked, shredded look. Whereas, me and Jordan Wood, we kind of just put that mass bulk on and just got as big as we could. But there's for sure balance. like Nathan Taylor, our current heavyweight, unlike the names mentioned just now, he's naturally 275 pounds. Whereas, me and Jordan coming to college, 220, 240, Max coming in, about that same. Nathan came here, he's about 270 pounds. If we just lifted him without intention on just putting on mass as much as possible, he would, he can easily get to 300 pounds, like still looking clean and one of the most athletic guys on the team because he can broad jump and a vert jump higher than further than anybody on the team. He's a real athlete. But if we put too much size on him, what we did last year a little bit, he would find himself, lacking a little bit in conditioning, just carrying that extra mass. So this year, we've done a great job of keeping him between 270 and 275 while he competes. So he has the balance of size, power, and athleticism.
That's awesome. I think maybe it's because of your wrestling style, but people don't know how athletic you actually are. Like Zach can do backflips. Zach's way more athletic than I am, even when he was 280. Sure. So, I mean, was that just natural or did you just train for that? Or did you train for that?
No, I mean, a lot of athleticism. And for that point, like most skills and abilities, a lot of them are natural given to you by, God or your parents. So I was just a very athletic, big dude. I was growing up with two brothers, so I was always super competitive. So it was never, something I didn't think I could do. I was always really fast. And then when I saw these kids doing backflips and the rest of them, I'm like, all right, whatever, let's give that a try. So then that stuff. I don't do them too many anymore. I don't know if I've done one in the past year, to be honest with you. It might be the cause for me to go upstairs and actually listen to them, but I haven't done one, but I tell everybody I can still do one.
Send us a clip when you do that. We'll put it in.
Yeah.
I mean, we can make it happen.
Let's see it.
I'm not excited.
I remember I went to Lehigh for a camp. This was like my junior year of high school. And Zach's one of the counselors at this point. You've been like a freshman that year, Zach, I think. And we're in like the big gym where the camp is, and I see Zach just go sprinting down the mat at the wall and then run up the wall and do a backflip. And that's when I was like, okay, these Division I heavyweights are a different breed. Like that's not your average high school heavyweight. That is terrifying.
There's some good athletes, even in the heavyweight weight class, more so now than back when I was in college. Back when I was in college, it was your more, standard big dude, didn't really do too much. The heavyweight wrestling now is awesome. It's very exciting. I mean, Jordan Wood's senior year, I think there was like 10 world medalists in the bracket, bunch of dogs wrestling out there. But yeah, the weight class has evolved quite a bit. Some really good wrestlers and some very athletic wrestlers out there today. Yeah.
My senior year, like on the third day of nationals, so it's only the All-Americans weighing in. I think I was the second or third heaviest guy at like 245.
Really?
Which is kind of crazy. Yeah, it was like Gwiz was bigger than me and Marsden was bigger than me. Kuhn back that year was actually, he weighed less than me. He was like 240.
That's crazy. Yeah. Back. If you went through the bracket, my junior year, almost everybody on the podium was probably 270. Big, thick dudes. Probably trying to get as big as me so I couldn't mat return them. But it was a bunch of big dudes back then. Man. A lot of fun.
Yeah. Zach, on that note, like, what do you think was your like deciding factor in winning an NCAA title? Like, obviously, you made it to a really high level, made a world team, won an NCAA title, super successful. Was that like strength? Was that, I mean, obviously you're super athletic. Like, what was your separating factor that was like personally for you in order to reach levels in your sport?
I think I have to attribute it to my competitiveness. Again, growing up with two brothers, it's almost like not even prioritizing winning, but it's just going out there with the mindset like I'm not losing, and so I'm not, I'm willing to win at all costs. Whether it's getting injured and like not letting it bother me. I just there was always like almost a plan that was put in front of me. It's like, all right, I was supposed to win states in high school. It's all right, I have to do that. And then I got to college. I was one of the highest ranked heavyweights coming into college. I was like, all right, I'm supposed to win nationals, so I have to do this. So it was never an option that I wasn't going to do it. So I just knew that had to be accomplished. And when it did, it's pretty relieving.
Yeah, I love that. I think just being scrappy is like such a underrated thing, especially in college wrestling. Like everybody's pretty much doing like generally the same technique, like at the top 8 guys or whatever. But it's the guys that are just like, I'm just not losing that separate themselves. So I love that. So mindset wise, is there anything like different? I mean, it's kind of a lot of pressure to be like, this is what I'm supposed to do. And so then it's
Yeah.
almost like, I mean, I definitely felt that throughout my career where there was times like I'd win a big match and be like, I'm not happy because it's like, okay, I was supposed to do that. So who cares? But then
Mhm.
if you lose a match, it's like you're mad because like you weren't supposed to lose. So
Mhm.
how'd you deal with that? Because I'm sure there was some setbacks. Obviously, you're not going to win every single match. You're not going to
Well,
be a four-time national. Very rarely are people four-time national champs
yeah.
undefeated.
Yeah.
Um, so yeah,
It's, I don't know how long you want to talk about this question, but for me, it's unfortunate because, like you had said, most of my competition life, especially in wrestling, revolved around stress or the need to not lose, in which that could have, stopped me from becoming the best wrestler, uh, while developing skills and growing new offenses. I would just, even to practice, I would go to practice with the intention on winning the practice. So I wasn't very growth mindset because I really wasn't able to until probably the past couple of years to where I've retired from wrestling. Because most of my wrestling, I go out there super stressed, thinking that I had to win, I couldn't lose, or else it would like affect my ego, or just people would think less of me. So I really wasn't able to grow until recently, and it relaxed. So the whole time I was competing, I was very stressed about wrestling. I never really had fun with it. It was very few times where I'd get my hand raised and I'd be like excited about it, unless there was like a quick pin or, a huge win against somebody. But most of my wrestling years, it was out of stress. So, just recently I've been able to look at it and try to have fun and teach my wrestlers, to go out there to get better and keep scoring points. And as simple as that sounds, like to really understand the meaning of it, I've just been able to like comprehend now. And that's what I've been trying to, coach the guys I'm close to.
Yeah. So if you distill it down to a couple points on mindset and how to approach it, like what are you
Hmm.
telling Nathan, as he
Yes,
comes into the road?
absolutely.
And
Yeah. So
yeah.
really what has been like some of the common things I've been saying to the guys I'm close with, or all you guys, just concentrate on your energy that you put out and the attitude you have during the match. If you give it your best with your best attitude, as corny as it sounds, like winning and losing, it doesn't matter because you're gonna get better as the season goes on. If you go out there with fear, doubt, and expectations, you're likely to not have the outcome you want, or just like not have fun while you're out there. We all have had matches, me more than you guys probably, where you're staring at the clock waiting for the time to end, rather having fun while you're out there. At the end of the day, this is a silly sport where it's two guys wearing pretty much rubber spandex, tackling each other in the middle of a match. Like such a ridiculous sport to think about that way, to let it consume or control our stress and just freak us out. So to control you give your best energy out there, you go out there with a grateful attitude, with, happy with the opportunity to compete. And if you can really embody that and like have that happen while you're out there, then it doesn't matter. But with the elite athletes and great wrestlers that we have here, if they go out there with those things, they're going to win more matches than not, and they're going to be very successful. And that's
Yeah.
what I believe you've been seeing more recently with Lehigh Wrestling. We have some amazing wrestlers, and a lot of them are having a lot of fun right now.
That's
so
awesome. I think we talked about it with Brucky, even Ayers too. It's this recurring. I think it's the way, whether you get there during your competitive career or not, it's like this really, it's the competitive mindset is actually about focusing on like the process and, like you
Hmm.
said, the attitude and effort more than the outcomes, because that
Hmm.
relieves a lot of pressure. But
Hmm.
also to do that, you have to be bought into the process, right? You can't be screwing around. You can't be going out. You got to be eating your meals right. You got to be getting your
Hmm.
recovery right. Because if you don't leave
Yeah,
those stones unturned, then there is doubt in the back end. Like, did I
100%,
did I buy in?
100%. Yeah, and even with athletes who do everything right, you know,
Sometimes it doesn't work.
unfortunately, some people, don't have the best mindsets when they're out there competing. And it's like, we've all known guys in our practice rooms, like, man, if that guy just had the right mindset, that dude would be a national champ. It's,
yeah,
it's crazy. And then guys who go out there grateful to compete, just let it all hang out. Those guys, sometimes come from, no success in high school wrestling and just are dogs in college. And we're seeing that a lot.
So, Zach, this is interesting, and Max, I want to hear your opinion on this too. But like, you just described something to me that like the only way I've ever felt this was like feels like you got like an 800-pound gorilla over your head when you're competing, and it
Mhm,
was like every summer, like as we got closer to season, it was like my stress levels would go up. It's like we're getting ready for competition, you're getting ready to
mhm,
go out there and lay it on the line, and so it's almost like this like paranoia of like stress. Like I need to be prepared, I need to do this, and I think that
mhm.
helped in a certain degree, but I also think there's a certain amount
Absolutely.
of unhealthiness of that way, and you're saying you kind of felt the same way, I think. Um,
Mhm,
but with that, you're obviously still in the sport. You did the sport for a long time. You were very successful, and you
mhm,
love the sport enough to keep coaching and continue to do this. So, how did your mindset change, or how do you see that? Because obviously, it's kind of a double-edged sword of where it's good um,
mhm. Absolutely.
because it makes you perform, but it was bad where it's unhealthy. But you didn't hate the sport. Like you just said, the sport's not fun. But everybody
Mhm,
gets like this, like wrestling gets this death grip on people. And I'm really
mhm,
fascinated on why. And I think it has to do with the struggle in it and the purpose behind that. But most people are like, this
mhm.
sport sucks. It's really hard, but they also love it and they continue to do it. So it's like you say one thing and then your actions are something different. And I feel the same exact
100%.
way. Where like sometimes wrestling wasn't fun, but I still
Mhm,
loved it,
yes.
just
Yeah.
like in a meaningful way. Does that make sense?
Uh, it makes perfect sense. One of the first things we said was, we need a little bit of it. And something often Coach Santoro says, if you don't get a little bit of nerves before you go out there, it doesn't mean enough to you. So the healthy amount of nerves is when you're gearing up for competition and you get that fight or flight response from your body that lets you're about to go into battle. That's healthy. Now allowing it to consume your thoughts where you're playing every possible outcome or exchange that happens in the match and allowing it to stress you or affect your ability to compete, then it gets to the unhealthy side. Or if when you're laying in bed at night, you're allowing wins or losses or future matches to consume you, because again, at the end of the day, it's a sport. We're supposed to have fun with it, and that's something I've been relaying to our guys. And then another thing you said, it's like, wrestling at times sucks, and it's like, for a lot of us, for me, even though I didn't have fun competing, I just loved practicing. I love to go in there and fight people. And I didn't always win. My coach for 2 years was Steve Mocco for my senior and junior year of college. I might have one takedown in 2 years, and he beat the crap out of me every single day. And I'm like, wait, I kept going back. It's like some people would have quit, you know, the first workout. It's just something about wrestlers to where we love the struggle, and we're just weird like that, I guess.
Yeah, I totally agree. I think, and Zach, you saw this with me because you were right alongside. You were, a resident athlete and coaching me intensely at that time. But I almost walked away from wrestling before my senior year. I was super close with a lot of injury. Say I had so thinking about the pressure the wrong way, and when I hit that, like, screw it, I could walk away
Hmm.
at any second. It was like freeing, and then I had the best year of
Yeah.
my entire career that senior year. So I was lucky enough to have that realization. Then I actually had a lot of fun my senior year and ended my relationship with wrestling at a totally different level than I went into my senior year with.
Hmm.
So I'm lucky to have like hit that inflection. But at
Hmm.
the same time, I didn't have the level of success you and Ryan had. So, it's an interesting, like, what is the right amount of pressure to put on yourself?
It's tough. It's tough. What One thing that's stayed with me, past year or so, David Carr, when he lost in the national finals match, I think it was maybe 2 or 3 minutes after it, he's smiling and he's, shaking hands and like signing, shirts and stuff. And what that means, like, and I talked to him about it, it's like when you give your best attitude and energy out there, unfortunate you don't achieve your goal sometimes, but there's nothing to, be mad about. You give your best attitude, energy, what does it matter? You're going out there, your family's gonna love you at the end of the day, your girlfriend's gonna love you at the end of the day, your team's gonna love you, your coach gonna love you. You give your best attitude and energy, that's all that matters. And so uh that's another thing, like just go give your best energy attitude. You come off the mat, or I'm gonna give you a hug and be proud of you. That's all that matters. Go do your best.
So I think that's awesome, and I love that. To push back on that a little bit, David is an awesome competitor. I think he's got a great relationship with the sport, but also he had a national title before that. So maybe pressure was, you know what I'm saying? Like, would that have been different if that was his senior year? It was his last chance at it, and then he didn't win it, and he was crushed by it? Or was it like, hey, I've already reached this pinnacle? Because I think that it's a little bit easier perspective of like, hey, I've reached the pinnacle. It's almost like yeah, there's pressure to do it again, but it's like you're never going to take away that national title that you already have too. So I don't know if that makes a difference or not, but
according to what I'm trying to preach to my guys, it wouldn't have mattered.
Okay.
but who knows? Who knows? I mean, I also lost a national finals my senior year, and you know, again, I wrestled out of stress, and I remember after losing my national final, I think I was like up on the podium, pretty teary eyed, and my fiance and my mom were like standing in front of me, like, what are you sad about? It's just wrestling, you know, who cares? Let's go get some food. It's all right. But you know, it's every wrestler's different with how they control wins and losses, but maybe we get David on the podcast and ask him, but I'd like to think that he would still be you know, a good person, how he was acting after his most recent loss.
Yeah, and no means like, I think David's awesome. I think he's
the best.
Got a
great guy.
on it. Yeah, awesome. All right, moving on, like, to maybe a little bit more, I don't know, interesting note in terms of like, you obviously are in the weight room a lot. What's your like most impressive feat of strength?
I mean, yeah, Max on the podcast, he's stronger than me, so it's like I'm not even like the cool strong guy. So
you're really strong.
My max bench was 500 pounds. But what I am more proud of was doing 315 for 18 reps and 405 for 8 reps. Those I like more than the 500-pound bench press, because those also show conditioning. Got a bunch of big fat guys out there doing big bench presses, you know, but I also like to think I'm pretty conditioned athlete as well.
Did you ever do like a combine 225 rep out?
Yeah, I think I think it was like 51.
Yeah. Hey, 51.
But with that being said, like when I'm 285 pounds, I mean, my arms might be 2 feet long at max. Like I have these tiny little T-Rex arms. So the reps are really easy. I'm really built for it. You know what I mean? So it is cool that I'm strong and stuff, but it's like, you know, probably not the best mile runner. You know what I mean? So we all have our pros and cons.
Yeah, I'm definitely not a mile runner.
Yeah, I bet Ryan has a sub 4 mile.
Stop. I was always pretty decent at running. I didn't like love it, and like recently, I feel like I like running more because I realize you don't have to just sprint every time you run. You can like enjoy it, do like zone 2 cardio stuff. But
what was your best mile time? I bet it's ridiculous.
I don't know. We'd run time miles usually for preseason stuff, and I'd win those, but I don't know exactly what my mile times were.
You know what around was it sub 5?
It has to be sub 5.
So we had a loop in Evanston. It was 1.1 miles. I think my best time was like 5:10. So I don't know.
Close to sub 5.
But I was never training for running. I'd like to think I could hit sub 5, but I don't know. Maybe not.
No, but you're 6 foot tall, 160 pounds. I imagine.
Whoa.
6 foot.
Hey,
I bet you.
First of all, 160. Zach, I have lifted with you once, and I'm like, you know, we're benching or whatever, and Zach's like, oh yeah, I'm just gonna go light today and warm up, and he threw like 4 plates on there. I was like, all right, man, yeah, I feel great about this. Yeah, that's super light.
Stop it.
So I like that 6 foot 160, Ryan.
Yeah, it's not.
I mean, how tall are you, Ryan? 5'10"? I mean, you're not far from it.
Yeah, probably 5'10" and a half. All
right, 5'10", 160. You're a very long boy. Like it's
160. Well, that's what I'm getting caught up on. 6 foot's fine.
My bad. So there's this rumor about you that how heavy would you get above 157 throughout the year? I thought what I heard was you stayed very close to your weight class.
I'd try to stay like 6 to 10 pounds day before. So like 2 workouts make weight.
So that's day before. How about, you know, compete Saturday, practice Monday?
I would try not to fluctuate that much. Like I probably would never get more than 12 to 13 in season over that weight class.
Okay, nothing crazy.
What about off season?
I honestly didn't move that much in off season. The funny thing is, like, I feel like after season it'd be 2 weeks of eating pretty good, and then like your body and your like metabolism, I feel like readjusts, and then you're kind of back to where you naturally were. At least I felt that way.
The truth. Well, yeah, you Deke the freak,
Stop,
Ryan
stop.
freaking.
But I also feel like Ryan's not the type of guy to like just order 2 pizzas for no reason when you're not
No.
hungry to eat them for fun.
He's got that discipline.
He doesn't have
Ryan
the
was-
heavyweight lifestyle in him.
Oh, I
Yeah.
can eat. I can eat. I was part of the
Yeah,
Fat Man
cool.
Club in high school. I swear to God, we had a Fat Man Club with our heavyweight coaches and the heavyweights. I was the only little guy in it.
Just because you're a
That's-
cool guy, but you couldn't eat like them, there's no way. You're a
No.
little guy.
All right, you know what? Next, hey Zach, Nationals, Max will be there too. We'll do an eating competition. I promise you, I'll get somewhere. Maybe not with you too. I'll get
Picking the
there
wrong
close.
guys.
Yeah,
But I'll
this
bring
is,
some smaller guys to
this is
make
what
sure
we're good at.
we'll bring Darian so you look like decent.
Oh, Darian
Is
can't eat
terrible
any-
at eating.
I'll
But,
bring Darian and his girlfriend on a date so that I
It
can
is-
eat their leftovers.
It's a good question, Zach, because Ryan was the guy that you always look at and you're like, how's he weigh what he weighs? You would think Ryan was walking around like way heavy, but you kept it like tight. And it just shows like
Smart.
good weight management. You can do it and do it right.
It's smart.
Yeah, I think water weight's huge. And then recovery, kind of going into our next thing too, is like obviously coaching and wrestling is like a huge strain on your body. What do
Yeah.
you do week to week? I mean, when you're competing and then even now, coaching, sometimes it's like, yeah, coaching, you might have a day where you don't have to work as hard if it's a travel day or something because you don't got to make weight. But also there's days where you have individuals and you might wrestle 3 times in the same day. So what do you do recovery wise currently and formerly?
Yeah, so I have to say that my diet and lifestyle and how I take care of my body is way better now than what I did when I was training post college or during college. You have to now. I'm doing, I eat a whole lot healthier. I meal prep and it's pretty much rice and chicken every single day for as long as I can control that. Way more fluids now. I put a sauna in my house last year.
Nice.
And, me and my wife will sauna, probably 3, 4, 5 times a week. Just getting to bed early, just that corny stuff, like staying hydrated, getting to bed early, eating healthier foods as best you can. The body's just hardened up to it. I probably feel better now than I have, throughout all my years of competing. Yeah.
How do kids work into that? Because obviously that's a huge spin on that. I mean, diet wise, trying to get your kids on, most parents I've talked to are like, whatever they'll eat, I'll give them to them because they won't eat. Or, obviously sleep changes up and obviously you got some priorities with them that it's going to mess up their routines and stuff. So how does that play a role?
Well, so, I mean, there's so many hills and valleys with raising kids with, diet stuff. Fortunately, I feel like I'm out of a lot of this stress. My 11 and 10-year-old daughters are people now. They're not kids. Hey, I'm like, they cook themselves eggs. They can make rice. Like they're people now. They're not little kids like my youngest. Where if you don't make her special, chicken nuggets the right way, it's not going to be a good day. But you still just try to do your best balance. I mean, my wife, has a business and she's as busy, if not more busy than, college wrestling coaches. And so the meal prep to where I'm cooking 30 chicken thighs and, 4 cups of rice at once, gets us through a couple days. But I mean, it's a balance. Some days I'm home early. I got to get home, cook some, bone-in chicken thighs and get some veggies and a carb going. But, obviously we do have our days to where we just open up the freezer and throw a couple chicken nuggets in the air fryer. It's just, you hope to have less days of that than the healthier, beneficial days. It's really just balance. But I mean, my wife has as healthy of a mindset or lifestyle as I do, if not better. And so where we both have come from, we're doing a great job. And so we'll understand if we have a couple of bad meals during a week and, have a conversation to try better to put out a healthier meal for our kids. But I do believe we're doing a pretty good job with that.
We talked about it a little bit. I think it was with Darian. It's like eating healthy is like, yeah, you got to try and do it right and do it right. But it's also like a fine line. You can't become a prima donna about it. Like if you got to travel or sometimes eat something, you still got to be able to go coach, got to be able to go train, wherever you are in your life. So it's like kind of this balance of doing it to the best of your ability, but not being a prima donna.
Yeah. So I, and I probably shouldn't do this as much, but a lot of times when I'm eating or think about what I'm going to eat, I always compare it to what I used to do. And like I said, Max would do a great job at clean bulking. I would eat whatever I wanted, didn't care. Chinese food. Um, one of the coaches, I think it was Nate Carr at the Olympic Training Center. One of his statements talking to the team was, your guys' bodies are like Ferraris. You have to put the right amount of fuel in them for them to run the proper way. And my response to him in my head was, my body's more like a biodiesel to where I could put whatever in it and it'll work just fine, work off like fry oil and just like keep chugging along. But it's like, so when I compare what I'm going to eat to what I used to eat, it's like right now I'm living a much healthier lifestyle, eating so much cleaner. But like what Max said, like when I go on a trip, I call it vacation meals, and it kind of diets off at that point. I try to do a decent job, but once we're traveling, it's like, all right, we're gonna up our calories for no reason. But again, when I compare it previous, I'm
You're
doing a
still
decent
doing a
job.
good job.
Yeah, it's all
Balance
balance.
is
Yeah.
always important for sure.
Mhm.
And then how's your training look right now? Because obviously, like strength training, I think I see it as like it enhance one for general population enhancing your life, but two, like as
Mhm.
a wrestling coach, it's such like an important part of injury prevention and just being able to
100%,
scrap with guys every day. Um, so
100%.
what do you do?
So just like what you're saying, that couldn't be more true. Like about a month before season started, or right about the beginning of the season, I wasn't lifting that much, and I was realizing that my what I was able to do with the guys up in the practice room was less. I wasn't able to fight them as hard or give them what they needed, and then my quality of sleep, my quality of recovery, lifting for me, lifting 3, 4, 5, 6 times a week. I'm sorry, that gets me in the right mindset and like gets my body where it needs to be. That's like when I'm lifting 5 times a week, my body runs the best and I have the best quality of life. And like you said, it helps me, be able to, wrestle with these guys. But for injury prevention, like if I'm not lifting legs, at least once a week, my knees and hips and ankles will start taking on the, extra stress or weight. So I love weightlifting. I'll be lifting weights when I'm done with wrestling. I was lifting before wrestling, but just quality of life, for bigger
Yeah.
guys like me and Max, like when we stop lifting, it's, we're still going to be 250 pounds ish. It's better if the composition is more muscle, and that just helps us stay healthier.
Yeah. I think like strength training is like the great equalizer, whether it's in sport, like if you're strong, you can get away with a lot more than if you're not, but also
Mhm.
just general life, like being strong, it keeps you healthy. Like you can have pretty significant injuries. I mean, we can even talk Zach Russell, you won your national title on a torn ACL, right? Or was that your senior year?
I tore my ACL my junior year in the first round. I wrestled that tournament, and then I wrestled my senior year without the ACL.
Yeah. But so because you were strong, like you can't do that if you're not
Mhm.
incredibly strong. Like if you have a lot of strength surrounding your
Mhm.
joints, you can get away with, strength training is a great equalizer. It's one of the best things you can do for anti-aging, like the great equalizer
Mhm.
there. So I think like in multiple facets, it's just hugely important.
Mhm. Absolutely. And for people like, me and Max, who prefer to go to the weight room to get a workout in, then go out, and run the laps with Ryan.
Whoa, whoa.
It's great for the body. It's great for the heart. And for me, it's great for my mind. It's like my therapy. When I go into the weight
Absolutely.
room, put on some music, I get, my therapy in at those times. It's good for
That's
you.
awesome. Hey, I want to
Well,
back up. I didn't even realize the ACL thing. That's like one strength training, great point, Max, like keeping everything tight, but like mindset wise, how'd you deal with that? Because obviously that's like, I think wrestling is such a cool sport where, I mean, if you tear your ACL in football, you're out.
mhm.
If you're wrestling, like you could wrestle through just about not any injury, but a lot of major
Mhm.
injuries
Yeah.
because you got to shift your style a
Well,
little bit. But you can figure out ways to compensate differently.
mhm.
But obviously, that was probably a hugely tough topic. Like you're thinking about it constantly. Anytime something's going wrong, I'm sure you're like, "What am I doing here?" Like, what went into that?
Um, I mean, I appreciate the compliment, but I mean, I don't know. It's just I was supposed to wrestle and just get it done or keep winning. So, I tore the ACL. My the national tournament where I tore it, it hurt then. The senior year, I did have a couple. instances of lack of, stabilization, just a little like immobile every now and then. But it really didn't bother me. And it could be more to the fact that I was just 208 pounds of, strong dude that wasn't exactly dynamic. I wasn't going to be doing too much. And I stayed in my box or made you wrestle in my box to where, I was going to be controlling the situations. And I probably lessened my offensive attacks even less than my junior year, just to, not put myself in a bad situation.
Yeah, but junior year, right? Like you tear it. Obviously, maybe as like the next year goes on, you get a little bit more used to it and like kind of feel more stable with understanding how your body feels, even in practice and stuff. But like in the middle of a tournament to shift your mindset and like continue to wrestle on that, like was that tough, or was that just kind of like you're just built different mentally and it was like, screw it, that's what I do?
That stunk, dude. So I actually tore my ACL at States my senior year of high school. In the semis, I won that tournament, and then I got surgery right after, and then that tournament. So I wrestled this guy Marone from Virginia Tech, and it was, we were in overtime, and I kicked over top really hard because I needed to get the takedown. Got the takedown, ACL exploded. It was a little stiff that night. I went to sleep, woke up crying, called the trainer, and then we just, we're just gonna tape the crap out of it, and then. It hurt really bad that tournament. I was just mat returning dudes, just finding a way. Because I knew if they couldn't take me down, the worst case scenario, we go to overtime, and I'd do a couple mat returns, and I win. That was great. That I wasn't having fun wrestling with it then, but when I won my national title, I forgot about it a little bit. And then when we got the scans, it was like, all right, am I going to get ACL surgery and then come back in the middle of senior year? No, let's just get it done after. So then, fortunately, Lehigh let me just wrestle with it, and then they paid for the surgery after. But it wasn't fun, but it was manageable just because of my style. Now, for certain people who aren't able to slow matches down and their only success comes from being very offensive and shooting, it might be way more challenging for those guys. It just plays in my style to just do less. And I was like, all right, here we
go. Only you could flip that around to like, yeah, it works for me.
Positive.
I mean,
that's like, yeah,
so,
that's crazy.
and I don't know if you guys can relate to this. For me, when I'm wrestling with an injury, it goes back to like my super high stress or focusing on the wrong things potentially. When I'm wrestling with an injury, I'm focused on that injury, which means I'm focused on making sure I keep, my leg in the best position for it not to get hurt. I'm not worrying about what you're doing anymore. So it actually, when I'm wrestling with an injury, I actually wrestle more relaxed.
Interesting.
Wow. So tear your ACL, win a national title. Got it right.
I mean, there's been a few more guys to do it, but no, don't. It's not.
Yeah, can avoid that. You probably should.
It's not.
But if you are going to tear your ACL, pays to be strong.
Yeah, 100%.
One kind of staying on the strength training topic, and I think it's one of the things that Lehigh does really well. I think a lot of good programs are starting to head in this direction. And it really probably started around your senior year as I was coming up, is having the heavyweights and the lightweights train pretty differently, like on different schedules, even different practices, different frequency of practice, different kind of weight training. Talk to me a little bit about what you guys are doing at Lehigh now, kind of the program that's been developed over the last 10 years or so. That's really, I think, turned Lehigh into the heavyweight wrestling powerhouse it is.
Yeah, I'd love to share that, but it kind of makes me nervous that more schools will pick up on it, because I do believe most schools they train their upper weights the same as they do their lighter weights, and we have benefited. I mean, every All-American, Jordan Wood, Max, myself, soon to be Nathan Taylor. It's like our bodies break down more. We do a set of skills, much smaller, and where we don't need to be practicing as often. And so if we're fresher, and we're conditioned, we're strong, and, our moves are crisp, it's like, why do we practice much? Because our bodies break down so much more. And so we really benefited from Jordan Wood and Max practicing, 3 times a week sometimes, just because, when they're bigger and stronger from less mat practices, they perform better. And, just like anybody, it's like you wear down, you don't compete as well. Our big bodies wear down faster. So,
Yep.
so what we do, we have heavyweight specific practices, 3 times a week, if not every practice during that week, where we work on the set of skills that benefit Michael Beard and Nathan Taylor to be their best selves. And, we prioritize their skills. We get in, we get out, sometimes 45-minute practice, sometimes hour 15 practice, because what we've noticed over the years is, shorter practices, focusing on the skills that help them win, get out, has showed, big success.
Yeah.
Ryan, out of the colleges you've been to, have you guys done that at your programs, or you guys typically just have the heavyweights at your practice?
Yeah, typically it's at the practice.
Mhm.
I do like that approach, though. I think that it's
Don't
interesting.
use it at don't use it at Stanford. It's not a good idea. Just keep
That
it.
doesn't work. I felt
Nice.
terrible doing it.
Listen, you guys have a 250-pound heavyweight. Just get them smaller throughout the year, so when it gets to nationals, it's 230 pounds. It's better for us.
No, it's true. It really is. And yeah, no, it's a good point. And I think that every program I've been around or seen or been a part of, I think there is a little bit of change. Like most people recognize the strength training part of it, where like heavyweights are maybe lifting a little bit more,
Mhm.
or they're pushing, our nutritionists are talking to them a lot more and like, hey, listen, it's like a chore to get some of these guys to eat that much. And so like trying to really push food and stuff. But I do think
Mhm.
that there's an interesting aspect of like, yeah, if you're trying to hold on to weight, stay healthy and get bigger, the cardio that is a wrestling practice every day of the week is
Mhm.
probably detrimental to that. So pulling
Mhm.
back minutes or changing minutes for that is definitely a great idea. And I think that half of college wrestling is staying healthy. So I do appreciate you sharing that and understand that's an awesome
Yeah,
strategy.
I don't necessarily want all the schools to use it, but like, uh, most of the lifts you do during season as a college wrestler is to maintain. It's really
Yep.
hard to get stronger throughout the year, because simple science, in order to get stronger, you have to get bigger. Okay. You have to calorie increase to get stronger. It's fact. So most of the lifts are just to maintain. And now for heavyweights, we need to lift more. We need to stay big and strong. And it's harder to maintain just because how many workouts we're going through. It's really hard to not be in a calorie deficit just because how many workouts we're doing. So I
Mhm.
want all these college coaches to continue to work their heavyweights just like the 25 pounders and have them burning too many calories a week. Cause like, all right, so we're all good friends with Lucas Davidson. It's like, Lucas, he's, I don't know, 235, somewhere in that range of a heavyweight. He's a very active, very offensive heavyweight. Now, maybe if he's 260, to the comment you made earlier, maybe he's not as competitive, but there's something that to me, I think he'd benefit from just having another 15 pounds on him, so that when he wrestles, Kurt Fleet or Nathan Taylor, you know, or Schultz, just to, be a bigger person.
I think that's a
But
good point too. Like a lot of people talk about like the new age of heavyweights, or like I've talked to heavyweights where they're like, yeah, well, what about Kyle Snyder winning a national title at 225?
Mhm,
I'm like,
mhm,
Yeah.
that's an exception to a rule. That is
mhm,
not the rule,
Yeah.
and I think
mhm,
that, you know, being 260, 270 is probably going to
mhm.
help you a lot more than
Well,
being
it's
230.
it's
Yeah,
physics. It's force equals mass times acceleration. Acceleration
scientist.
that's the strength part, right? That's how fast can you move your body.
Yeah,
And then there's the mass. So if you're Zach's weight moving at the same speed, you can actually move quite a bit slower, but it's a multiplicative effect. So
mhm,
mass is a huge part of that equation. Just being heavy,
yeah.
having weight.
As long as it's not detrimental to your speed and conditioning. So there is
Yeah.
100% of balance.
Yep.
But yes,
But yeah,
Kyle Snyder,
yes.
shit.
Yeah, it's Kyle Snyder.
How do you
Enough
play
said.
with that too? Obviously, I think the off season is a huge part of this too, but you got to be. I think it's easier to adjust to that extra mass if you're wrestling and continuing to move your body as you're doing, like as you're putting on new muscle tissue, you're like coordinated with it and your body's used to it. Because there's usually an adjustment period. What I've seen, especially even guys that just go up a weight class, like they might
Mhm,
get a little bit more tired for the first couple weeks, and then they
mhm.
start to feel like, oh, okay, like my body's used to this muscle mass now. I
Yep,
can actually like move and feel good and not feel like I'm gassed after a 2-minute go.
yep, that's exactly the case. One wrestler, specifically on our team last year, he went up a weight class, and it took him the whole first half semester to get used to that weight class, and then he ended up, top 12 at nationals last year with, not a great first semester. But it's like through the postseason and preseason, if you're having guys go up, they are lifting 4, 5, 6 times a week, but you still have to be on the mat once or twice so that you're still, retaining the skills or at least adjusting. So it's not like you take 4 months off and you're like, oh my God, how do I wrestle with this body? But yeah, it's got to be stuff.
And conditioning that new muscle mass. New muscle mass is like
That's the fun
soft
part.
and not as conditioned. So you gotta
Mhm.
like arguably you gotta be in even better cardio shape for every pound of new muscle mass you put on.
Yeah. So
Yeah, absolutely. I guess one more thing. Max obviously loves talking about Lehigh wrestling too. I love wrestling. What's you got any insights on just the rise of Lehigh wrestling this year? You guys are doing a great job this year. And I don't know, is that just like accumulation of you guys have been uh, obviously you guys have been grinding for a long time and doing the right things over a long period of
mhm.
time, but what's making a difference for you guys, and how do you feel like what are you excited for coming around the corner?
I mean, it, our teams, our teams the past couple of years have always had some elite athletes on it. I think the difference is just having one or two more of those guys where it's getting competitive within the team. It's like Ryan Crookham, Mike Beard, Nate Taylor, Luke Stanich, Malik Hines. We have a lot of highly ranked guys currently, but it's like it just takes a little bit, and maybe that little bit has been seeing Ryan Crookham in the lineup just looking to bonus. When you have guys in the lineup looking to bonus or score every second they're out there, it makes you want to wrestle that same way. When you have
Yep.
a lot of guys stealing matches, it's like you're winning, but it's not as fun. But it's like, right, if you watch that Cornell match, like guys are just going out there excited to compete. As a coach, that's always what you're looking for. And sometimes you'd rather coach, that kid who's not winning as much, but going out there and giving it all versus the kid who wins more, but he's like stealing it or leaving the match gassed. But what's the difference right now is we have a team of hungry wrestlers, and they're all, we're a young team. We don't graduate anybody of the, currently high ranked guys next year. So it's just a group of very hungry wrestlers who are excited about the opportunity to compete because Ryan's coming off of a redshirt year. Michael Beard, he's coming off a national tournament that he didn't love. They're just very excited to compete, and Coach Santor really does a great job at talking to the guys and making them, realize the important things in life, and just to feel fortunate and grateful when you get out there, and that's what our team is doing. It gives me the chills to think about how hard they wrestle. So they're doing great.
It's awesome. Yeah, I'm
Yeah,
excited. I love watching it. Obviously, I'm slightly biased, but
me too.
it's been a fun year to watch, and you can see it looks like guys are having fun competing, which is also awesome.
Yeah, it's a
Yeah,
lot of fun.
yeah, I think too, like, I think it was Huberman that was talking about this once, like the momentum piece on a team. Like
Mhm,
wrestling's so individualized, but like when you see somebody else do well, I think it's like your testosterone spikes and then like you want to go do well. And I think you see these teams that like one guy does good and then the next guy and the next, they just keep doing better and better and better. And I think
mhm,
that momentum carries over on a team. So you just need the
mhm.
fire starter, on your team that builds
Yeah,
like starts momentum.
and that's the case with everything, recruiting, winning, wrestling, team competing well, it all goes together. It's like right now, we're coming off of a good win, beating Cornell, where to me, I mean, the win's obviously fun, but to watch the way our guys competed, that's more important to me as a coach. Maybe the celebration, like I wouldn't have been as happy after without winning, but it's like to see the last three guys win, Beard, Taylor, and Stanich in the fashion they did against the opponents they wrestled, and their composure. It's like that's what you want as a coach. And
Yeah.
so watching that, and then obviously when you have fun, the recruiting's more fun, and you get more recruits, and it's just right now it's a lot of fun Lehigh wrestling.
Yeah, that's awesome. One
Yeah.
last thing that I think's super interesting, and maybe I don't know how you feel about it, Max, too, but like you're a wrestling coach, but also we've had conversations before. You're like, this is almost my side gig. You do a lot of
Mhm.
real estate stuff too. Let's get into that a little bit. Like, how'd you get into real estate, and what are your thoughts on that? And
Yeah.
yeah,
So my belief is there are a lot of other wrestling coaches who are doing the same thing I am. Like, I think the first time I heard about this was I maybe went out to Minnesota to train, and I think Eggum and Becker, uh, they both have rental properties around Minnesota. And if I wasn't giving all the credit, like 90% of the credit to my wife, I'd be lying. But like, we've been very fortunate to find properties in the right purchase price for us to get in. And then we also really benefited from, able to reconsolidate all of our loans at the right time, before all of the housing jumped. So we've been very fortunate. But with that being said, it's like just with anything, with wrestling, coaching, real estate, you have to be willing to grind and not have so much fun in order to have the success and smile at the end of the day. But through 2017, through 2021, there was a lot of late nights at some rental properties, fixing up houses that you don't want to be at in neighborhoods you don't want to be at. But fortunately, me and my wife have, we have 10 properties now to where, not that wrestling's my side gig, but the income might be. But we're very fortunate to be in a position to be able to do more things with our family than just with the wrestling coach salary. And just how I joke around with a lot of people, how many 260-pound wrestling coaches do you see that are 60 years old? I mean, my body, I don't know how many more years I have in this game. So, having a way out or, the next adventure, I'm very excited to also have that going on in my life because we've been very fortunate.
I think that's awesome too. Like most people look at wrestling, I think too, like wrestling coaches, and it's like, all right, you're this big blue collar, like love wrestling, like dumb jock for lack of a better word, right? And you're like this huge business side of it. Cool. That's really cool too. That I think's awesome. And did you always know you were going to get into like stuff outside of wrestling, or was that just like it just kind of came along, like you were saying, just talking to other people? And then did you grow up with a real estate background at all, or was that just again just kind of trial by fire?
So Diane's parents, they had a couple rental properties. We're both from New Jersey. Diane's parents had a couple rental properties in an area close to us in New Jersey. And so that first house that we moved into, Dave Zabriskie, I had a walkout basement. Dave Zabriskie moved into it. So we were getting, $600 rent or whatever it was from Dave. And then I got a couple bucks from my grandma or something. I'm like, well, why don't we start getting the real estate business? We didn't really know what we were doing, but, Diane had, a dad who did it and he could help with electrical, plumbing, and some other simple skills. But the fact of the matter is, if you just watch a couple of YouTube videos, it's really that simple to learn skills to be able to fix these houses. Because at the end of the day, it's like, you find the problem, you solve the problem, and then you get better at doing it. And at this point, me and my wife, the last couple of houses we bought, there's been houses where you can't even get on the inside before you buy them. You buy them, you go inside, you go, oh my God, what do we buy? And then you gut the entire house and then you build it from, floor up. You go, plumbing, electrical, floor, walls, blah, 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 kitchen. So now it's just like a running process. My wife's currently working on our 10th property as we speak right now. Yeah, it'll be ready in a month or so. And then once that's done, you transfer the equity, the line of credit against that house. And then I'll use the equity in my house to take out another loan. And then I'll go purchase another house. And then it's actually pretty easy. Yeah,
I love it.
It's actually pretty easy right now. Although, my wife, she's 130-pound, like a little blonde girl. She's, she puts her body through everything and she's the GOAT, but she can do it all. She's pretty amazing what she does.
Awesome. Well, so there you have it. You got Zach Rey. He's 500-pound bencher, national champion, and he's not dumb as well.
Businessman, and it seems like you just lean into everything. Yeah, you lean in and you learn what you need to learn or figure stuff out. So I think having the courage to take steps on everything seems like a common theme in your life.
So let me just pause there. I don't want you guys to compliment me where it's not due. I'm generally fearful or hesitant, resistant in all these ideas. I'm just lucky to have great people around me, including, Pat Santoro, and my wife, who have, been able to push me out of my comfort zones. Because without them, I would just be sitting on my couch watching TV. But I've only been able to grow into the person I am now in those areas of coaching, of wrestling or in growing a business because of those two people. So I don't want any of the credit. It's all them, but I do appreciate it.
Yeah. Neither of them benched 500 for you though.
No, that's me.
That's
That's me.
hey,
That's me.
that's awesome. I love it. Thank you, Zach. We really appreciate having you on, man. And it was great getting to know you more and talking.
Yeah.
I see it.
We'll be seeing you guys soon.